We do have a couple communities that haven't submitted mitigation actions, so we'll need those before they can do the state bid.
Okay, that's correct.
Just a few, so we're really wrapping things up. We want everything in. The purpose, I would like to see July be more of a review of the entire draft before we start compiling everything together and then get it out for public comment starting late August, have a public hearing in September, address any comments we get, and then get it in for review at the state so that we can get it going.
And then once the state's reviewed it, then we'll go to each jurisdiction.
Yeah.
Does each
Once we get
jurisdiction
the
have a public hearing at their city council?
It's up to them if they want to.
Okay, that's your option.
It's their option. We had a public hearing over a year ago. It wasn't well attended, but hopefully the next public hearing will be. We've had public comment or public involvement throughout the planning process. So if a community wants to hold a public hearing, I have no problem with it. I can't guarantee you that we'll be able to schedule me and Megan to attend, depending on the number of them. So that's
I would try to make myself available to Megan or Laura can attend.
Yeah, so that's my only concern is the number, if we'd be able to fit all of them in. Yes, so after the state approves it, it goes to FEMA for a final review, but we figured the state wouldn't submit something to FEMA if it needed a significant change. So I feel pretty comfortable starting to go.
Now, how big of an area are you guys working with? You're talking about Muscatine County.
Muscatine County was a plan that Bi-State did last year. So it's just Scott County.
This is just Scott County, both incorporated and unincorporated. The only reason she's referring to the Muscatine plan is because they did theirs first, and so that kind of gave them a model to follow as we did ours.
Yeah, so we're kind of working off some knowledge that we've had on
Completely
comments.
separate from Muscatine County.
Yeah, except for bluegrass.
On the individual jurisdiction risk assessment profiles, on Davenport, it got 2 columns there under City of Davenport hazard priorities.
Oh, okay, yes. City of Davenport had an existing hazard mitigation plan. Part of this plan is considered their update to that hazard mitigation plan. What you see here is it starts on the bottom of one page and then goes to the next. And it is a comparison between the hazard priorities of the previous plan and what their hazard priorities will be for this plan. They're very similar. What I did is they had combined some of the hazard priorities in their previous plan, but we decided to uncombine them. So they're pretty much the same. We just listed them out.
So just out of curiosity, there's an existing hazard mitigation plan the City of Davenport's gone through the process of
And
approving and all that.
it expires in September is it September?
I think it's good for things like
Something like that.
approved for 5 years.
No, I don't think it's September. I think it's earlier than that.
It's
It's 2012.
Right.
So this is their update to that plan.
So will the City of Davenport need to go through a public hearing process to get this approved before it's incorporated into the grand county plan that this document is?
That's the city's option.
They're part of this document now. It's a separate plan from their existing plan. The public hearings for this plan as a whole count towards public hearings. They can do a public hearing on their own if they want to.
This is a multi-jurisdictional plan, so each jurisdiction is approving their portion of the plan that applies to their jurisdiction. And then Scott County will approve the portion that applies to the unincorporated areas. So it isn't a matter of the small towns telling Scott County what we have to do in the unincorporated area, or Scott County telling the small towns what they need to do. Or I shouldn't say small towns, any city in Scott County. They each adopt their own portion of the plan.
And I got a follow-up question. In terms of the workflow for getting this plan approved and so forth, I heard you say that it will go to the state for approval?
Yes.
Okay, and I'm just looking at the minutes from the last meeting, and it says this plan is in draft form until it's approved by FEMA and then adopted by the county. So what is the the pecking order? How is this thing gonna move forward through this approval process?
Well, what happens is after the public hearing, we've taken any comments that we have, then it goes to state, and they tell us if we're missing something.
State, which department? State.
Iowa Homeland Security Emergency Management Division.
And they're reviewing it for completeness, not for content.
Yeah.
For, that we've covered all the items that we need to cover.
Yep, so they have, I believe, I did send you the crosswalk, they go
Mhm.
through that crosswalk.
Okay.
Step by steps, making sure that we've fulfilled the requirements, and if there's something we're missing, or if something doesn't seem clear to them, they let us know and we make those changes. If it's, and then it's a substantial change, we'll have to bring it together for you guys to review again. If it's something, like labeling maps or
Explaining that CFS is cubic feet per second.
yeah, little things, we're not gonna.
So once it meets that criteria and they approve it, then it goes.
They submit it, we don't have anything to do it, they submit it to FEMA, and then we don't get contact at that point. They contact the state with anything, so then they become they're like the intermediary between us and FEMA at that point. And that's kind of a new process for us, because Muscatine County, they had a waiver, they had some grant funds to do some buyouts with the flood, and had to have their plan approved by a certain date, and so they fast-tracked it, and FEMA's worked directly with us last time. So that's why we've got some idea of what FEMA's looking for. So that's kind of the pecking order. Does that make sense?
It does, and so the ultimate goal for my member for the first meetings I came to is to get FEMA to approve this plan so that this body is eligible for grants.
Right.
Correct? And that's the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
Yes.
Got it.
Anything else or anybody else?
Comments? Is it
Comment?
comments
Yeah,
section?
yeah, go for
Okay.
it.
First, thank you for the comments section. And for making your meetings public notice so that we can attend these. Appreciate that. And you've already touched on the fact that the purpose is ultimately so that you can get grants, and that you're locally showing that you're taking actions, taking steps to mitigate hazards. So that's what I got out of what's going on here. And in the end, doesn't FEMA want to reduce the dollars that it's paying out by actions that are going to take place locally? So they want to lower what they're having to pay out by
Correct.
locally us doing things.
Yes.
And when I've been listening to your discussions about compiling these actions, some of the suggestions about these have been to don't limit your list of actions by resources or funding. Think of the list as anything is possible. Or think of this as a wish list and also make it grand. When FEMA gets this plan, my concern is this is a plan of action for a local community to do. And they're not going to put it on a shelf and say, this is Scott County's wish list, and they don't want to do any of these things if there's not grant money. They are looking at this for if FEMA gets low on money and can't pay out hazards anymore, that they're going to look locally and say, what can you then turn into mandates and get the job accomplished that way? And it concerns me because as we, in the beginning when you talked about these actions, there was full descriptions of what these actions meant. And it talks about codes and regulations and fines and fees and buyouts and all of this stuff. But yet, when it got to the point of putting them with your actions, the definitions are gone. And so I guess I want to urge everybody, and this is always, I continue to ask this question, what's going to happen with actions? Who's assigning actions? What do these actions mean? And my concern is, look at these actions assignment to these hazards, and think of it if this became a mandate and not a grant. Can your community afford these things? Maybe you're not going to have the option to have a grant coming down the pipe. The federal government is broke. doesn't have any money that we aren't giving them. These grants are our money. Every time they print money, it makes my money worth less. The cornerstone of hazard mitigation is flood insurance. Flood insurance is billions in debt. They subsidize it. They have driven the private sector out of being able to sell flood insurance. And they are going to have to totally redesign it. So at best, you've got a program, a flood insurance program, that's broken. And so I guess, at best, you got a grant to do this so that you can get more grants. And it doesn't make me proud that we're going to the federal government to get grants when it's broke. And at worst, it concerns me that you've laid the groundwork. You've put this plan together. Your names are on this. These are your actions, and you've laid the groundwork for where regulations and fees and codes and mandates can come down the pike. And again, I just ask you, please make sure that look at your actions and make sure that your community could pay for it if there isn't grant money, because they're not putting laws through anymore by legislation. They're doing it by regulations. And that's all I got to say. I hope you take a look at your actions, and thank you for the time for comment.
Thanks, Diane, I appreciate your comments. I understand your concerns, and unfortunately you haven't seen the next step, which is the state plea evaluation. That will help alleviate some of your concerns. It's a much more detailed explanation. I can show you what the form looks like. I have a copy of one. And what they have to do is see if it's technically feasible, whether they have the staff to do it, whether they have identified funds for it, and do they have the legal power to do it, will it negatively affect the environment, and then, what's the time frame, who's responsible, what's the benefit to doing this. And I sat down with Bluegrass and we did it, and there were some healthy discussions on, is this something we really should do? No, I don't think so. So we're not going to do it. So I hope that will help alleviate some of your concerns in the long run. When I haven't shown them yet because I haven't gotten them all yet. So I hope that will help alleviate some of your concerns. But I do understand where you're coming from.
Thank you. Well, we'll meet next month, July 25th, 6 o'clock, same place. I'm suggesting we have a table set up in the square. I think that is a little more helpful for discussion rather than us sitting up in the face of all these folks. So we'll see if we can talk to the city of Eldridge and have them do that for us. But we appreciate your hospitality. Thank you for sure. All right.